Hey guys, welcome to the Liberal Hive Mind, a channel solely focused on exposing the abundant hypocrisy of the left. This right here, folks, is called one thing. It's called doing something. It's called making an impact and fighting for change. Ted Cruz could learn a lesson from his own damn state as the state of Texas once again stands up and fights for everybody else's rights. I mean, could you imagine if it went beyond Texas, and of course maybe a little bit of Florida, but really when it comes to these lawsuits, when it comes to challenging big tech in the Biden regime, there is nobody doing as much as Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton, who hits us once again with a massive win. A legal battle fought and a legal battle won within the domain of free speech online, free speech on tech platforms. It's coming straight out of Texas, folks, and it's one of the biggest stories that nobody is talking about. Folks, we are at a pivotal moment here, an inflection point, so to speak, and if action isn't taken right now to ensure people's First Amendment rights online, to stop the technocratic BS, these tech company CEO oligarch tyrants, if something isn't going to happen soon, well then it might be too late. Thankfully, the state of Texas is at least doing something, and it's time for others to join in. Let me update you guys on what's going on, and of course, let's continue to talk about this very important issue. I mean, we're talking about the First Amendment here, folks. Like I always say, it's the First Amendment for a damn reason. It's not the second, it's not the third, it's not the fourth or the fifth, it's number one, because it should be priority number one, so let's talk about it. Of course, let's roll the tape. All right, friends, so take a look at this headline right over here. Huge First Amendment win for Texas. Ken Paxton and all Americans. Today in federal court, Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton and the American people scored a huge victory regarding censorship and banning individuals based on their viewpoints. The Gateway Pundit is also involved in a free speech lawsuit of their own in Missouri v. Biden. This victory from Attorney General Paxton will certainly help the Gateway Pundit's case moving forward. We have this message right over here from Attorney General Ken Paxton from the state of Texas, or I correct myself, from the great state of Texas. Breaking: I just secured a massive victory for the Constitution and free speech in federal court. Hashtag Big Tech cannot censor the political voices of any Texan. The Fifth Circuit, quote, rejects the idea that corporations have a freewheeling First Amendment right to censor what people say. This is a massive win for free speech. In fact, it might be the biggest yet. I mean, take a look at this decision. In urging such sweeping relief, the platform offers a rather odd inversion of the First Amendment. The amendment, of course, protects every person's right to freedom of speech, but the platforms argue that buried somewhere in the person's enumerated right to free speech lies a corporation's enumerated right to muzzle speech. The implications of the platform's argument are staggering. On the platform's view, email providers, mobile phone companies, and banks could cancel the accounts of anyone who sends an email, makes a phone call, or spends money in support of a disfavored political party, candidate, or business. What's worse, the platform argues that a business can acquire a dominant market position by holding itself as open to everyone, as Twitter did in championing itself as the free speech wing of the Free Speech Party. Then, having cemented itself as the monopolist of the modern public square, Twitter unapologetically argues that it could turn around and ban all pro-LGBT speech for no other reason than its employees want to pick on members of that community. Today, we reject the idea that corporations have freewheeling First Amendment right to censor what people say because the district court held otherwise. We reverse its injunction and remand for further proceedings. This is one of the biggest legal victories of my entire time on YouTube. Of course, it's still within a smaller federal circuit court, and the whole legal process is still ongoing, but nonetheless, it shows exactly what we've known all along, that what these companies are doing is blatantly unconstitutional. They're playing within this legal gray zone that they're a platform but also a publisher, and it's just gotten completely out of hand. If there were viable alternatives, it'd be one thing, but we've gotten to a point where places like Facebook and Twitter and YouTube are really the only options. All tech is interesting possibly down the line, but right now, these companies are monopolies. They have a monopoly on public discussion and the flow of modern ideas in society. And the idea that these companies can just control speech in whatever manner they please is completely unconstitutional. It's totally authoritarian, and it has some very damaging consequences. The idea from these tech companies is that these trust and safety teams are incredibly important because they save lives, when in reality that argument is totally flawed. I mean, let's talk about the whole censorship scandal in relation to horse paste. I'm not allowed to say too much here because again, you have a massive tech company that can enforce their arbitrary, ever-changing rules on speech and what is allowed speech, but just all of the censorship and all of the misinformation in relation to this one issue, based on the peer-reviewed studies that have come out as of recent, might have led to not only hundreds of thousands of people losing their lives, but millions, because there was a widespread conspiracy to censor speech, censor scientific discussion in favor of one political side's narrative. It has to stop. These tech companies do not have the right to take away people's First Amendment rights because of a private company, and reform in relation to these laws must happen. And that's why we must be so thankful to the state of Texas, and specifically Ken Paxton, because what's actually very likely to happen in the next couple years is that one of these lawsuits makes its way all the way up to the Supreme Court. And it just goes to show how important Donald Trump's victory in 2016 was, the 3 scoops that we constantly refer to, because now there's a Supreme Court that actually respects and abides by the Constitution and is very likely to rule in favor of the people's inalienable right to freedom of speech and expression. It should be considered a blatant violation of rights anytime these big tech companies censor anybody for speech or actions that aren't directly criminal. That should be the baseline. You should have the legal right to say what you want when you want to say it, as long as you're not breaking the law. And if tech companies want to get rid of you, if tech companies want to censor speech, they should be forced to follow very specific legal parameters, rather than just censoring anybody they want willy-nilly because of their supposed problematic viewpoints or political talking points. It's absurd, and maybe actually, if you think about it, that'd be a good thing for society, because maybe Google would be more focused on ridding their platform of actual criminals and scammers, terrorists, and people who plan on committing horrific crimes, instead of spending all this time and energy going after people who have political viewpoints that they disagree with. On this platform right now, there are multiple political topics of debate and discussion that I am literally not allowed to cover or speak of, and if I do, there's a chance that my YouTube channel gets terminated. And we're talking about basic stuff. We're talking about basic ideas pertaining to scientific study or analyzing what happened over the last 2 years, or analyzing investigations or allegations or anything really pertaining to the 2020 election. It's completely off limits. YouTube doesn't allow you to even talk about it. On what legal basis can they actually enforce rules like that? It seems like a total violation of people's First Amendment rights. And clearly that's exactly what's going on. I mean, it's a no-brainer. And the leftist arguments in this public debate are completely ridiculous. Because let's just say all of the online tech censorship was aimed in their direction. You think they'd still be using the private company argument? Absolutely not. They wouldn't. And once again, it's the GOP and specifically the state of Texas fighting for people's rights. And it shows you just how ironic it is. The Democrats keep claiming that Republicans want to come after your rights. Biden tweets suggest that GOP lawmakers are more concerned with robbing women of their constitutional rights than with lowering costs for American families. You know, it's kind of funny because I just read through the entire American Constitution and I couldn't find the word abortion or reproductive rights anywhere. It's completely non-existent. But the literal first couple of sentences, the First Amendment, I see a law that unmistakably and absolutely cements your right to freedom of speech. So the question is, which side is truly fascist? Which side is taking away your rights and which side is fighting for your rights? It's as clear as day, folks. And it's of course the opposite of what Brandon's telling you. A huge victory for the great state of Texas. A huge victory for every American in the First Amendment. And hopefully this is just the start, just the beginning. Hopefully this issue, this debate, makes its way all the way to the Supreme Court. That's what I got for you guys though. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to leave a like and possibly subscribe to the channel. I'm gonna get back to work. Thanks for watching, friends, and I will see you on the next one.